This $3 million gut job is the new norm in Toronto real estate. Stay tuned to see what the heck I'm talking about. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to this whole new set. Everything looks different, obviously, but welcome to the Tuesday review of headlines. And our first headline is going to be this. This tiny 2-bedroom house in the Toronto is for sale for almost $3 million. Definitely clickbait from BlogTO, but let's go through the headlines. Essentially, there's this house on 16 Kenray Road. It's a really tiny, you can tell it's a 2-bedroom bungalow, and it's in Leaside. You can tell over here, it's right beside some multiplexes, and it's actually listed for $2.8 million. Now, obviously, they're going to go through this article about how it's run down, how on earth this property could actually sell for $2.8 million. It actually goes on and shows you how crappy the house is until you're like, I don't know, like let's scroll bar, like 40, 50, 60% down the column before it actually says this piece of land can fit 2 homes and it's already been approved. So while it is very clickbait and saying that this crappy house is worth $2.8 million, a lot of it really comes to the fact that it's land value and the person who's selling this has already severed the piece of land, right? Meaning that a builder can come in and build right away. Now, this is a 40-foot lot, and are they going to get $2.8 million? That's kind of absurd in my mind. And this home was listed for $1 million before. So this person is just asking to be written about in any kind of headlines, and that's why everyone's kind of talking about it in my real estate circle right now. You can see over here that I basically pulled up the listing of the property. I've highlighted the fact that it's 40 feet by 120, so you can kind of build 2 semis side by side. They're saying about like 1,600 square feet over here or 2 levels. And if you do put like a garage attached into it, obviously it's gonna be worth a lot of money. The crazy thing about this is like, I honestly don't think this person's gonna get their money. They have it listed with one of those like commission-free brokerages. So you can see down here, it says seller will negotiate what the commission is. And generally you're looking at like 2.5% commission for agents on the buy side, but they're paying the listing brokerage $2 and they're gonna negotiate. So a lot of the times this scares off a lot of buying agents and they probably won't sell. And then on top of that, it says, click the brochure button for more information. And you can see at the top here where I highlighted some stuff, they don't have anything attached. So this is a very incomplete listing, whether it's the seller or this com-free brokerage. I'm not gonna comment on it, but I don't think it's gonna sell. However, if I work back on math on what some of these houses are worth, right? Like in the area I pulled up, there's a townhome here that's 15 feet wide that sold for 1.4, and it's really not that great. There's another house on Cleveland here around the corner that's 19 feet wide by 150 deep, right? And it's also a 3-bedroom, and that went for 1.72. So this is a little bit done up. Now, if you were to modernize it kind of like with a flat roof and everything, or even just kind of a more contemporary kind of style, and you put a garage in, I can easily sell this, seeing this go for like $1.82 million easy. You have 2 of them, you work it back, they're like $600,000 to $700,000 to build. There's actually profit, or meat on the bone for the builder. So while I don't think this person's gonna get, almost $2.8 million or $3 million, I can see them probably getting like, over 2, maybe. All right, on to the next topic. We got Omicron COVID variant 19 likely to add fuel to the real estate fire. Realtor says, can't believe a realtor, right? Anyways, the whole point is like, I actually agree with this. I'm not gonna go through in this because on this week's Thursday video, I'm gonna be giving you a more deep dive into it. So make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned to check that out, okay? Then, all right, we got the next one here, which is Korea. They just came out with the Canadian national numbers for all of Canada. And you can see this absolutely mind-boggling number where it says the MLS home price index rose 2.5% month over the month, which is fine, but if you think about it annualized, it's like, over 25%. And you can see that from December a year ago, it was up 27.7%. That's crazy, right? And just so anyone doesn't know, the home price index is kind of like what MLS does. They take away the stuff that isn't the cookie cutter standard, quote unquote, right? So let's see what's a normal house. It could be like a semi-detached 3-bedroom, 2-washroom, and they take all of that and combine it and take out like the outliers, like bridle path homes and stuff that skews the average, right? So what the normal person would be buying per se. And then you go down here, it says this is actually not the nationally adjusted average price, but when they did seasonally adjusted, and when they did just weigh the average, we're at $713,000. That number is absolutely crazy, right? Like if you think about it, if you're a first-time home buyer, just reversing what you can buy, you divide that by 5. Do live math is probably not a good idea. 200. You're looking at about at least $140,000 of income to buy any average home in Toronto, or sorry, in Canada, right? Well, while this is probably possible with 2 people making $70,000, that's definitely way above the average income anymore, unless you're kind of like a professional making that kind of money. So the idea of not even like owning like a house, like a white picket fence, is just owning anything in all of Canada requires 2 like young professional income to make it work, or 6 figures on your own. So that's definitely housing affordability crisis. Crazy. All right, so we got the next one here. CMHC to review down payments of investment properties as part of federal strategy to tackle housing risk. Look, I said this last year. It's part of my 7 prediction videos. You can check it up here. They're obviously going to change and curve, like, trim around the edges, as I've been saying, how the demand side is, right? So right now, in short, if you've been watching a lot of my content, I've been saying there's a lot of people who is putting money in real estate because real interest rates are negative. There's nothing else you can better put it in. And because real estate's doing so well, it just makes sense for people to continue buying real estate, right? And I'm going to touch on some people upgrading from homes and keeping their existing home as well. So I knew this was going to happen. We saw this in like 2008. We saw this in 2012. Then we saw the 20% minimum down. Like if you go way back, kind of like when we're from, like back in 2008, you could buy a home 0% down, 40-year mortgage at like 4 or 5% at like $300,000. Yeah, that was a thing. So now we're changing, which is fine, right? So I have a couple plans here. You can see here, they're highlighting what they're trying to do to curb speculation in the red hot market. A similar kind of like foreshadowing or forward guidance when we had the foreign buyer tax. The fact that they're coming out saying that they're talking about it and analyzing it means it's probably going to happen, like I said, right? So, check off one of my, predictions. I also do like the fact that they already have a name for it. I think when the Wynne government did it in Liberals, it was like the Fair Housing Plan or something. Now we got the Fairness in Real Estate Action Plan. So it's a FREAP, FRAP. I don't know what they're gonna call it, but yeah, that's kind of my idea. And then they're trying to target a lot of people who are, forcing these properties to go higher than what they're able to afford. But when I'm reading this, I'm like, isn't that what the stress test is for, right? Like people are, stress tested at 5.25, but they're getting rates lower. So are they really going beyond what they can afford? Unless, obviously the banks are making a lot of exceptions on their total debt service ratio, which, kind of is a thing, definitely a thing. We got here someone saying, by developing policies to curb excessive profits in investment properties, protecting small landlords and Canadian families, and reviewing down payment requirements for investment properties, we are targeting the issues the market is facing from multiple angles. One of the things that they're not targeting from a certain angle is, while I do think that when the negative real interest rates are so low, investors are more likely to take on some cash flow negative just to make the numbers work because the interest rates are low and so much of your mortgage pay down goes into principal. I do think that because the interest rates are low, there's also a lot of end users who are willing to pay more for it because there's just nothing to buy right now. So there's a demand side and there's a supply side. Like increasing supply is not going to fix everything, because when you have negative real interest rates, and everyone just needs to put money into something that, is it going to lose value because of inflation? Yeah, you're obviously going to have a lot of people flood into the real estate market, especially if the stock market isn't doing and trading too well right now, right? So it makes total sense, but you always forget the fact that has a lot of demand, and there's also still a lot of demand from the end users, right? Meaning anyone who's going to live there. I got highlight another couple things here because this is going to be kind of a very meaty topic that's going to be discussed in the coming few months, especially the election. And I've been telling a lot of my clients just to watch out for this. This is probably going to curb a lot of things depending on what comes down the pipeline. And like to this day, we're still not really sure whether they're going to do 25% down for investors, 30% down, 35% down. And a lot of it is like, where's this down money coming from? Can you not draw from HELOC anymore, right? Because right now, if you draw from HELOC, your total debt service ratios are a little bit more messed up. So that's why we recommend most people to go refinance routes. But then at the same time, if you can't, utilize money from refinance or HELOC, then obviously it's going to be harder for most people who are borrowing from their existing assets to buy investment property. So obviously, whether that borrowing funds is true and how much the down payment minimum is going to be for investors is going to affect the market for sure, but we just don't know what that amount is, right? He's saying here that it makes it harder to hold onto two properties at once when you increase the amount of capital, which is absolutely true, right? Because we were saying earlier in a different video, a lot of people are keeping their existing properties and then they're buying a new one. But if the new one is still deemed an investment because you have an existing one right now, then that new one is going to require the higher down payment amount. And if it restricts the amount you can pull up from your existing one, then it probably has to force some people to sell the home in order to buy a home, right? Because a lot of people, like I was saying before, they're keeping their home to buy another one, right? So they're all deemed investors. So I like that, how he's addressing that, because that's a demand side equation. Oh, look there, he talks right here. So no matter how much supply they build, it won't prevent a housing bubble. Obviously, it just depends on the speculative nature of people buying. This one's very great. So he's quoting that when the mood is very exuberant, you can't build fast enough. It is true. It takes at least in Toronto, it takes 6 years to build a condo, a year and a half to build a home. So you really have to curb a lot of the demand sooner rather than later before any supply comes on board, because realistically, supply takes forever to come online, right? So those are the things I highlighted. You can see here, they're just basically talking about in the past how, people incrementally increase the cost of borrowing for investment properties. Like I was saying earlier, you can do 0 down and 40-year AM. That stuff is changing. So this, as a new rule, unless you've been around for 10 plus years, may seem weird and everything, but really we've seen enough of this before. So it's definitely going to halt the market, stagnate, maybe prices drop a little bit depending on what the percentage is, maybe forces some people to sell, frees up some supply, maybe decreases demand. While I do agree with all of that to cool the housing market, a lot kind of similar to 2017, it just freezes the housing market. It doesn't take it back down a couple notches, right? It's kind of like this whole transitory inflation stuff. If your eggs are at $3.50 for a 12-pack large now, it ain't coming back down to $1.99 anymore, right? So something to think about, right? Maybe there's a minor 1 or 2 to 5% correction, but if it rips from January to February up 10%, going back 5% is 2 weeks, right? So something to think about. All right, next headline. Oh, I'm definitely running along. So you got here, it says, tax the real estate speculators and make it hurt. I try not to comment too much about this, but I think this is one of the bigger topics. This one's person giving grief about how, I think Toronto Life wrote a puff piece about a 28-year-old who has $7 million worth of a portfolio, right? I think the idea behind that, I think I read it was another person who was investing for a while. The idea behind this is he's maybe trying to say that it's possible for millennials to buy properties, but at the same time, there's a reason why you go on to get some PR. Maybe he's trying to get some joint venture money. I don't know what the reason is, but he clearly is getting grilled by this guy, right? But the person who's writing this is saying that the method in which he's amassed his fortunes is by speculating in real estate. A lot of people say real estate is speculative, and I kind of remember reading his article. I don't think he was speculating. He was very fundamentals-based, cash flow driven. I think it was really later on when he started buying some more pre-cons because he had some cash flow to offset and be a little bit more chasing capital appreciation, right? You need to basically tax the people who have investment properties. I've talked about this before, right? And nothing against this reader, but it tells me right off the bat, maybe they don't understand how real estate investing works. Because if you're refinancing these properties to fund other things, you're not really selling anything. So there's no capital gains tax. So the only way you're going to get a tax is if you tax unrealized gains. And that's going to open up a can of worms. It's going to make taxing the capital gains on primary residence look like nothing, right? So if you understand real estate or even anything in investing, it's the fact that, again, it comes back to the money problem we have right now. Interest rates are negative, right? So it's always buy, borrow, die. You're not going to sell anything. And that's what I preach to all my clients, right? So whatever, you can put whatever capital gains tax on on all the investors. If they don't sell and they just refinance, it's irrelevant. But I think the idea of people growing portfolios and financializing real estate is definitely a problem when we're bringing 400,000 people in and we're not building housing fast enough. It's going to be a political divide. But when you mix that with the fact that people who have money need to store that money somewhere for safekeeping against inflation, real estate becomes a more viable option than a lot of things, right? So if you want to increase the interest rates, Bank of Canada, you can probably fix that problem. But oh no, you have too much debt, so you can't increase it. Anyways, I'm not going to harp on too much about this, but this is just something people are talking about, tax the rich, left or right. I'm not going to get into that political debate. Because even if Bank of Canada taxes them, what are they going to do with the tax money? They actually had, this one's great. They had a CMHC, I think somebody called for like a crisis meeting with a whole bunch of heads, including CMHC and whatever. And then their response last week was, we are going to build 74 affordable homes in Waterloo. 74. What a joke, seriously. They're saying it's basically like a $10 million project for 74 homes, call it $740,000 a home. Who's getting these? Who's buying them? I don't know, but the fact that you're taking so long red tape and like there's no efficiency in it to build 74 homes by the end of the year, and that's your response to the housing crisis? Good grief. Oh my God. Like if you've got 400,000 people coming in, 74 homes, call it, that's like trying to win the lottery. Yeah, good luck. So I wouldn't trust the government with kind of how they're spending their tax money, whether they print the tax money or more money to spend. It's irrelevant. The system doesn't work. I'm not going to go down a tangent. All right, we got another one here that says, oh, this one's good. For a lot of my clients who are talking about Garden Suite, I think last week, January 12th, the city came together and they wanted to propose some garden suites here. I don't think I highlighted anything here. Oh yeah, there we go. So someone here is saying that like, while garden suites are great, it's not necessarily for everybody because it costs a lot of money to build, right? So they're saying maybe 500,000. I've seen some garden suites being built in Barrie because they were allowing it last year before they revoked some things for about like 350, 400, but that was like mid pandemic. So pricing may have changed. The thing is like, if you need more space and you have the ability to build a garden suite, that's fantastic. But as a return base for like your rents, if you can charge your garden suite for like $1,500, $1,800 and like a one bedroom, you can build it for $500,000. That's kind of like basically just plopping on another condo, like a really, really cheap condo, and you have really good cash on cash return for it. So I think from an investment standpoint, it makes sense, but it only is advantageous to if you own the piece of land because you're just basically getting a free parcel of land to build a home. But if you're buying a home and they're trying to add it on, there's probably going to be a premium attached to that, right? So it may not make sense, but we'll see. But what I did do is I kind of pulled up the bylaws that they were trying to amend to give you an idea of how Toronto is viewing this, right? So in short, I'll put a link in the description below. You basically can't kill trees. That was a given. You don't need parking for this garden suite, which is fantastic, which kind of follows along the new rule they eliminated. And then the garden suite has to be smaller than the front, like the main house, right? So those are kind of the main things. And I think that's pretty reasonable, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna, frame it around some more and get to the details. Maybe there's like setbacks, who knows, right? I think it will be probably a bit more difficult because right now the rules are kind of loosey-goosey in terms of how you're able to build a garden suite. All right, we got two more. So these ones are from Bank of Canada. I like to read them. Most people don't just because it's boring, but I will very summarize for you. So they essentially kind of did on how to look at, how mortgages are classified, right? So I highlighted a couple interesting things here, right? So you can see here it says, the last time growth in the investor category outstripped that of first-time homebuyers was in 2017. Before foreign buyer tax, right? During a period of exceptionally strong house gains in Toronto, right? You can see right now, basically starting from the pandemic, the green line on the screen here is investors. We have went from, not much growth to, woo, it's doubled in growth to 100%. Now, the first-time homebuyer growth is only increased 40%. And a lot of that is because, again, interest rates come down, people need to buy. At the same time, anyone who's moving to a bigger house during the COVID period, you're obviously keeping your house, like we said, and they also deemed investor, right? So, these numbers are a little bit skewed, but yeah, this is a little bit alarming. And that's why I was saying they were looking into clamping down how investors can buy properties, and that's why it's coming, right? And the last thing here that says that the increased presence of investors in the housing market has contributed to strong demand and reflect that housing prices will continue to rise in value. While I do agree with that, I always circle back to this, like increased interest rates. Just make it harder rather than trim around the edges. If you increase the interest rates like 100 basis points at the end of this year, again, which I don't think they're going to do or be able to do, I'm pretty sure a lot of investors are going to be out of the market. And then we got the last thing here. This is going to be kind of random, but it's just for anyone who is studying kind of the macroeconomics of why everyone's plowing into real estate because of negative real interest rates. The fact that you have here Bank of Canada is talking about climate change, I don't understand why. It's kind of like what I was saying, like I can't see them increasing interest rates earlier because of Omicron coming. But the fact that now they're talking about climate change tells me that they're going to put this under the belt, saying that this is now the Bank of Canada's kind of mandate to fix climate change, and we have to throw a ton of money at this. I don't think this is going to go over well because the oil industry, there's been no investment into it. It's been decimated. Gas prices keep going up, and we keep carbon taxing gas while we transition to like fully EV, which I'm all for. I have an electric vehicle, right? But the idea is it's not going to end well. And if you're going to give cover for the Bank of Canada to keep interest rates low, to keep stimulating the market and investing in kind of like green initiatives, yeah, interest rates are going to stay low because we keep borrowing money and printing money for all of that. That's kind of all I have for this week. A little bit longer on this Tuesday review, but hopefully it kind of gives you an idea of what's happening in the market. Again, I think because the market is so hot right now, there's gonna be a lot of things changing on a weekly basis. So make sure you tune into the Tuesday review of what's happening. Now, if you're looking for any kind of real estate help, given that there's so much information out there, and see what makes sense for you, whether you're buying first home or should you actually invest, whether this down payment's gonna affect you, should you buy something before it maybe affect you, you can book call out with me using this link right here. It's www.chaozan.com. And until next time, your move, your future. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.